Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Show business like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing. Everything that traffic will allow. Nowhere could you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra bow. There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Yesterday they told you you would not go far. That night you open and there you are. Next day on your dressing room they've hung a star. Let's go on with the show. The costumes, the scenery, the makeup, the props, the audience that lifts you when you're down. The headaches, the heartaches, the backaches, the flops, the sheriff who escorts you out of town. The opening when your heart beats like a drum. The closing when the customers don't come. There's no business like show business, like no business I know. You get word before the show has started that your favorite uncle died at dawn. And top of that, your partner has parted. You're broken hearted, but you go on. There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Even with a turkey that you know will fold, you may be stranded out in the cold. Still you wouldn't change it for a sack of gold. Let's go on with the show. Let's go on with the
show. That's the last one we saw. Yeah. Oh, wait. Oh, we're on.
You know the song ends and I turn the mics on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the standard operating procedure.
That's what we do here, Peter?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Works for me. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for that. I'm used to Ken's song that goes on and on and on and on and on.
Like Ken.
The song that never ends. So good morning, everyone. This is not Ken, obviously. He's a heck of a lot younger than I am. But anyway, this is Kathy Palmer coming to you from WCPC, Channel 15, WestfieldTV.org, in cooperation with Westfield State University, 89.5 on FM. And behind the glass, under glass this morning, serving a la carte, is none other than our wonderful producer, Peter Coles. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
I have a question for you. What's the story on this lunar landing that happened?
Well, you know, you got to stop your forward motion before you kind of hit the surface. And when your pad digs in, you're going to tip over. It's almost, I consider it the equivalent of tripping over a curb.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
That's what happened. It tripped over a curb. Luckily, it landed on a panel that had like artwork on it, so there was no scientific instruments on that panel. But the only problem now is the antenna that transmit the majority of the data back is not in the right position. So they have contact with it, but they might not be able to get a lot back.
And they're getting a weak signal, right, Pete?
Yes, very weak.
Now, whose ship is this?
It's a company called Innovative Machines. I think it's somebody that used to work in the aerospace industry and then went out and started his own company. I mean, they did accomplish a landing on the moon. except they tipped over.
Wow. Except it isn't working. They
Well,
did
no,
say they would
it's-
still get a lot of data back.
Yeah,
though.
it's working, but it's not working as optimally designed.
Okay. Well,
But hey, space is hard.
yeah, I guess. And it's the first one in how many years, Peter?
Successful landing of a probe. A couple countries have tried in the meantime, and they have failed because most of them have crashed, or the mission has gone awry. But here's the thing: somebody brought this up in one of the videos that I watched over the past couple of days. Is NASA's funding these kind of on the cheap? I mean, they're not expensive in the interplanetary probe type category, but they're helping companies start up. They're giving them funding to get going. And so the companies are doing R&D. NASA's funding the mission, but they're not spending nearly as much as they would doing their own mission. So it works for everybody. It expands the private aerospace companies, and it also helps NASA. You know, they're going to launch 3 more missions in this class this year.
Wow. Holy smokes.
So, and they're all going to the moon. So it's kind of a win-win. Yes, this one sort of failed. It sort of succeeded, sort of failed, but there's more coming. So,
But we also learn by failure.
oh, absolutely.
We learn what not to do. What is the projection for any manned spacecraft going up?
I think they pushed it back to 2026, but that's going to depend on. There was a problem with the space capsule that they're reworking some stuff because when they did the unmanned mission, it was some stuff came back out of spec. The capsule's a little bit hotter than they thought it would be. So they're reworking some stuff for that. So they pushed it back a year for that mission. And, I mean, SpaceX is still getting Starship out of the starting blocks. So that's another thing. And Blue Origin's not even close to having theirs even prototype. So, yeah, everybody knew it was going to get pushed back. It's just depending on how it went. We'll get back there eventually.
Okay.
I mean, listen, we had a great momentum in the 60s and early 70s, and then we just stopped.
Right.
If we hadn't stopped,
I was there.
If we hadn't stopped or even scaled back a little bit, we'd be on Mars by now. We'd probably have colonized Moon by now.
Interesting concept. You may have some points there. Thank you, Peter. Anything else space, I go to Peter. We'll come back down to Earth, and I'll introduce my guests in a minute.
You have the master of the universe in the studio, so you know.
Dun, dun, dun.
That is true. I just want to, before we get started with this morning's taping or show, I'd like to remind you of a couple things coming up with me. We have on March 9th at the Westfield Women's Club, we have the Harlot Queens. Not as bad as it sounds. It's just meant to be. They are a Renaissance group. They are wonderful. They are a lot of fun. They do a lot of comedy routines and music. It is probably only suitable for adult entertainment. You would not want to bring your 6-year-olds to it, ladies and gentlemen. But please come on down. Tickets are on sale. You can go to the Westfield Women's Club site and order your tickets, $20 a head or $25 at the door, and that is Saturday, March 9th. The other thing, get ready for Robin Hood, one of the first Avengers. Absolutely, that we will be doing the first 3 weekends in April at the Westfield Women's Club. It is suitable for all ages. Anyone is welcome, and tickets are already on sale. And if you don't come, any of you up here, I know where to find you. So, let's carry on with our morning. I want to introduce my co-host. Usually I have Harry Rock. Harry, wherever you are, I know you're busy doing something important today, so I will say we missed you and hope you are doing well, and I will let you know when the next time is we are back in the studio. But I do have one of my dearest, oldest friends in the whole universe, and that would be Dennis Akins. Dennis, good morning.
Good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. Tell me a little bit about what you're up to. You've been on here a lot. You used to have a show on here.
Yeah, I had a show for a few years with Brian. When Brian Sullivan was mayor, he and I had a show highlighting what was up on the agenda for the mayor. Monthly we did it, and it was a great experience because Brian is a pretty affable guy, and we got a lot of interesting stories and guests about local politics and how that all works.
I used to watch you.
Oh, you did. Yeah.
Yes, I had both of Brian's kids in school.
Of course you did.
Yes.
Of course you did.
And at his inaugural ball that I was at, he said, "All right, Mrs. Palmer, I need to talk to you." I said, "What?" He said,
Thank you for asking me, by the way.
Yeah, he said, I'm in the ball. He said, "This is my ball, and all my kids want to tell me is Mrs. Palmer's here." But yes, but we do go way back with the Sullivan family, though,
Yeah,
don't
of course.
we?
You and I go way back, period.
We do. One of our first shows, ladies, was with Dick Sullivan Sr., their father.
Their father.
And all of these Sullivan boys were very young, and we used to go to parties at their house, and the kids would line up on the stairs and look at us.
Like the middle of a Sound of Music.
Yeah. Apparently, we were something to look at. I'm not sure why they
Who
were
else
there.
did we do that show with?
Oh, golly, Cindy Coffey was in that show.
Bob Plass.
Bob Plass was in that show. I was trying to put that out of my memory.
I don't blame you.
No. I love Bob.
He's a wonderful
Absolutely
man.
wonderful. We had a great time with Bob. So good morning, ladies. I will finally get around to you. We have two wonderful ladies this morning to tell us a little bit, Denny, about Pinehill Cemetery, because they have a really big upcoming event. Oops, see, I did it. Touch the table.
Yes.
So we would like to get up to you. This is Callie. And this is Tara. Tara, you are an intern with Pinehill. Is that what it is? Okay, so let's see. Let's start with Kara and tell us a little bit about what you do at Pinehill and what you're up to. What are you up to, Callie?
Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
I'm Callie. I'm the office manager at Pinehill. I've been in the position about 2 years, so I definitely wouldn't yet consider myself a historian, but I'm working to get there. And I do, of course, the office administration of the cemetery, but I would say more than that as well. You know, I'm also on the grounds. I'm doing tours whenever folks want to see our available lots or just curious about the history of Westfield.
Oh, nice. And are you from Westfield originally, Callie?
I am. I was born and raised, and I love Westfield. I'm happy to continue my life here and stay here forever.
Did you ever
Excellent.
think that you'd be managing one of probably the largest cemetery in Westfield, if I'm not mistaken?
Certainly not. I definitely, I didn't plan to, I didn't grow up thinking, I dream of being a cemetery manager. But it's a position I found myself in, and I'm very happy and grateful for that. I've always had a relationship with grief and with loss, and I feel like our callings find us, and probably that was how I ended up here.
I think our callings find us if we're lucky.
Yes.
There are many people who don't have that
So
application.
can we refer to her as a cemeterian? I don't think there's any terms for what you do. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot of it's about celebration and memory.
Right.
You know, I mean, without cemeteries, how would we ever hold dearly into the past of our loved ones, you know?
Right. It's really a physical, peek into the history. You know, you can read books and you can view media, but to see, physically stones etched in stone forever in history, hopefully, then I think it's really wonderful to be able to see that physical representation of it.
Good. Tara, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you ended up here, how you got to be on board with Pinehill.
Yes, well, I have been working in the communications field for a long time in media, and I decided to go back to school and finish my degree at long last. So yes, it really has been a wonderful experience. So I'm at Westfield State University, and I just saw the email come in. I was looking for an internship, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but when I read the description, I said, well, that's it. That's what I want. So I applied, and
Good for you. Yeah.
yes, it's been wonderful.
So what did you do in communication before that?
Mostly photo and commercial, video, film production
Interesting.
work. Yeah, so I did a lot of wardrobe and art direction and some on-screen work as well.
So this is very different. for you?
It is different, but I've always loved writing, and I've had a few pieces published just kind of randomly here and there. So I really wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. And since I've been back in school, I have actually written a couple scripts for
wonderful.
projects with school. So I had already sort of warmed up with that.
Nice.
Good. Excellent. That's excellent. Could we have just, and this is just a general brief history of the Pinehill Cemetery. I know it's not the first cemetery being the old burying grounds that we've had. The old burying grounds, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it is on Mechanic Street in Westfield. It is probably one of the oldest cemeteries or burial grounds in the country that is still in its original location.
Right.
There may be some that are older, but they have been moved and changed. The Mechanic Street has not. The earliest grave that we can identify, although it was opened in the late 1600s, I believe is 17-something, and that's Abigail Sackett, but I'm not sure of the date. And then the last one was sometime in the 1930s. It no longer is a burial ground. It's not an active burial ground, but you can still tour it if you'd like to. If anyone is interested in the Mechanic Street burying grounds, all you need to do is go to the Athenaeum or Park and Recreation, and they will give you access to the burying grounds. So having said that, when it began to fill up, we moved into Pine Hill. So if you can give us a little bit of Pine Hill, either one of you.
Of course. Yep. So, like as you said, the old burying ground was beginning to fill up at that point. It was the summer of 1842 is what we always say. And so Westfield was continuing to grow and expand, which meant there was more of a need for burying grounds. And at that point, also the old burying ground was starting to be surrounded by homes, so there wasn't room to expand the burying ground there. But really what a larger issue that some residents were facing is that the old burying ground did only accept certain religions. It was affiliated with the Congregational Church.
Those rotten Catholics were coming in, Dennis. And it does, when you think about it, the middle 1800s is when you begin to get the immigration tide from Europe. So you're getting a lot of the Catholics. And the first church was the first church, and you had to be of the Protestant religion.
Right.
So you're correct.
Yeah, even like Italian folks were viewed as another, entirely at that point.
Oh, yes, I was the Irish.
And I was both. So.
Right. So if you weren't like an original person that was here, you were viewed as an outsider, I would say, at that point. We can assume, yeah. So those folks needed a final resting place too. And as you said, the old burying ground was filling up. And so in June of 1842, they describe it as an animated and spirited town meeting. So I'm like, what actually went on in this
I imagine
meeting?
it would have been.
Yeah, highly debated, I would think, that a lot of folks really feel, okay, we need a place to be, that's not held with any restrictions of wealth, race, religion, all these things that divide us. So Pine Hill, there was appropriation made for funds to purchase the land of Pine Hill.
And it is what kind of a cemetery? Private, public, religious? What kind of a cemetery would you say that it really is?
Yeah, we're categorized as a completely non-denominational, of course, and it's a private nonprofit. So a lot of folks think that, Pine Hill is affiliated with the city, that it's run and maintained by the city, but it's actually not. It's private, and it's run by a board of directors.
That's good to know. I think people think of it as being a public Westfield cemetery, Denny. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think I grew up thinking that and I also assumed, not any longer, but back then when I was in high school, being Catholic and going to St. Mary's, we had our cemetery.
Yes, we did.
Holy Trinity had their cemetery, and I assumed that was affiliated specifically with one non-Catholic or Protestant church.
Right. A lot of people think that, and
It's just not true.
no, and we have folks of all races, all religions. We have Catholic folks buried at Pine Hill. So it's not deemed by any sort of restrictions in that regard.
Yeah, which makes it even nicer, I think.
It is. There is a difference. It is categorized, and Pine Hill is different from the burying grounds because when you go to the early burying grounds and you look at the graves, because we do a lot of work in there with the Historic Commission, they're all very somber. You know, you're going to be here soon, ha, 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 ha. You know, that kind of message, and they're very serious, and you find all kinds of epitaphs that are warnings on live the good life or you will be forever doomed. But you get into Pine Hill and you look at their graves and it becomes different. Now it's angels and flowers and it's lovely. Why is that? Do either of you know why that would be?
Well, Pine Hill is also a garden cemetery. It's one of the
yes,
first
of
rural
course.
garden cemeteries.
And that is what?
It's defined by, being as if before the time there was public parks.
Correct.
So cemeteries like Pine Hill were created to be a public landscaped park-like setting for people to enjoy outdoor activities. People would picnic in the park, and children would play in the park. And it was very normal to do those things and encouraged. So it's meant to have that welcoming nature that you're describing.
What's interesting is that when it was first established, I would assume that would have been, both Kathy was raised in that area. I live there now, in the Highlands, we call it. And that was kind of the beginning of the Highlands. And I would assume it was a very agricultural area at that time.
When it started, I believe it was a pine wood. It was
Yes,
pines.
yeah.
It was the pines. Gillett, not Gillette.
Yeah.
Gillette, yeah.
Gillett owned a great deal of the property up around Toccoa Terrace. That was
Right.
all the Gillett estate.
Yes.
I do know that when my house was built on Granville Road, there were only 2 other houses
Wow.
on Granville Road.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't there then. Shortly after, though. Shortly after. But there were, you're correct, there were no houses there, but I think it was all wooded area.
I mean, there
if
are-
you think of Stanley Park,
Yeah. I mean, I think on Lowell Avenue, which is off of Granville, there are big farmhouses. Maybe they came, well, they were certainly there before you lived on Granville.
there's the large houses on Western Avenue.
Well, yes, those are, I think, built as residential. But for example, I live on Granville Road now, and in my deed, it specifically says that we can no longer have farm animals in the deed, which is unusual for most of the deeds in Westfield.
that's funny.
I think once they started subdividing, they thought that people might still be
you're
coming
right.
up to have little farms,
Right.
and they weren't going to allow that anymore.
Well, don't forget, you had a very affluent family living across the street, not too far from you also.
Who's that?
The Cantel family.
Where are
They were in that brick house. The brick house on the corner of Lowell and Granville.
Oh, is that right?
That was originally Cantel's
kidding.
house. They built
Oh,
that
yeah.
house.
That eventually Pam Townsend owned, and now the O'Connors own.
That's right. You're right. Yes, but that's who was there
Oh, my
originally.
goodness, I didn't know that. Cantels
Yep.
were a family that eventually owned a grocery store in Westfield.
They did.
Long gone.
They did. But the woods originally went all the way back down.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's Isabel Gardens, and they're all there. But we digress. We'll
We
get,
do
we'll
digress.
get
I
back to.
apologize.
We'll get no. That's great. But it was a garden cemetery. Things changed. Religion changed. Everything sort of changed. Did you have these kind of cemeteries where you were from, Terry? You're not from Westfield, are you?
I'm not.
Where are you from?
I was born in Hartford, but I was raised just in Atlanta, the suburbs
In
of
Atlanta.
Yes.
How on earth did you get here? Tell us.
Well, after high school, I, did some work in Atlanta and ultimately moved to New York City. So, and we have family in Boston and New York. So I did a lot of moving around the world, actually.
That's
You're a woman
awesome.
of the
That's
country.
wonderful.
Yes.
What county were you in Atlanta? Do you remember?
Fayette County.
County, sure.
Yep,
Goodness gracious, and you ended up here?
I did.
Of all places. All right, are you a city girl or more of a, shall we say, suburb? Which do you
Say
prefer?
country. You could say
The city or Westfield?
We were just talking about that.
We were. I mean, I've been a city girl for so long that I don't know, it's kind of natural to me. And of course, I love the opportunities for amazing foods from all over the world that taste like you're in that city, you know. So I think there's advantages like that. But at the same time, the relaxation and calm of, you know, being in Westfield and coming here to go to school, it's perfect because I can put my full focus on it without all of these distractions. So
Excellent.
I don't know. I've thought about that. I mean, we'll just see, I guess, what work opportunities are available and go with the flow of, you know.
You're going to be well versed at both. before you
Exactly,
leave, you know.
right?
As an intern, what is your actual position in the cemetery?
Well, I do a lot of researching, but my primary function is script writing. So I've been getting, you know, some historical background on the selected families, and we're just putting together some scripts, which of course Callie helps me through the editing process and correcting any, you know, anything.
And we'll get to that shortly. Callie, difference between a graveyard and a burying grounds. What is the
Right.
difference?
Or a cemetery.
People don't know that.
Right, so it'd be sort of the difference between the old burying ground and like Pine Hill, where we're still burying in Pine Hill. And there's still available lots for purchase, many. You
Yes.
know, unlike the old burying ground where they are no longer functioning as a cemetery with sellable areas.
I know a few people I could put in there, but I won't. I won't do that.
You know, living near Pine Hill too, you might want to tell some of our listeners. I was fascinated when I was in there one day, and because there's a trend as of late for more and more people to be cremated, Pine Hill has done a wonderful addition that's smack in the front of the cemetery. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so
It's beautiful.
that was an
beautiful.
addition by my predecessor, Dale Dixon. She was the superintendent for just about 30 years, and I believe they probably put that in maybe like 2017.
Yep.
So it's been a few years. So that's our scattering garden, and it allows the opportunity to, you know, you work with us, and you're allowed to scatter the ashes of your loved one in this area here. It's covered, you know, it's an open area, and it has trees, and we put flowers, and
Beautiful.
it's right in the front. And so that's an option for cremation when you don't want to bury a cremation, which is also an option.
And for some people, you know, and most people nowadays, finances may not allow a family to purchase, you know, a plot
Correct,
for it. So
yeah.
does that make it more reasonable?
It does, yes.
Okay.
So that's the most affordable option, and that's really why it was created. Is we Dale and, you know, after discussion, wanted to give folks the option to have something that was, you know, the most affordable thing.
Can you tell us about what that would? Is there a specific
Sure.
range? or-
So I believe right now it's about $375 for the scattering piece, which is quite different from you know,
Burial
a
fees,
lot.
sure.
Yes,
Yes,
because
of
you're
course.
purchasing the right of
Yeah,
burial.
that's
there.
very reasonable. I mean, so nobody's really going to be left out.
No, and there's also a memorial stone there that you have the option to get an engraving on. It'll have the year of birth, the name of the
Really?
deceased. Yeah, and so it just kind of, you know, you don't have to.
No.
But it'll list them going down like that, and that way you have, you know, you're not having your own stone, but you have an engraving there, you know, for history.
It's a party stone. Yeah, it's a
Yes,
big-
everyone's there together having a wonderful good time,
Yes.
right in the front of Court Street.
Absolutely. It's like
They have
watching-
that beautiful new park to look at, restored.
Yes.
park.
Oh, yes, with a fountain that's going
Yes,
to be.
with a
turned-
beautiful.
Yes,
I'm
it's
excited
beautiful.
to see it
It's
turned
lovely
on.
from the street. It
Yes.
really is. Peter, are you there? I don't know if he's there. I don't know if he's listening. It's gonna-
Hey, Mr.
Yes,
Producer.
my mic goes in. open,
Okay,
that's
that's okay. You want to take us to a quick break, and we'll be back on the other side.
Never been a sinner, I never sinned. I got a friend in Jesus. So you know that when I die, He's gonna set me up with the Spirit in the sky. Oh, set me up with the Spirit in the sky. That's where I'm gonna go when I die. When I die and you lay me to rest, I'm gonna go to the place that's the best. Go to the place that's the best.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Join me, Tina Gorman, each week from 6 to 8 a.m. for Wake Up Wednesday, when my guests and I discuss health, wellness, and lifestyle reimagined.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
And welcome back. This is Kathy Palmer here in Ken's Den. Ken is away in sunny Florida, and it's probably a lot warmer there than it has been here, hopefully. Although it wasn't last week, Peter, if I remember correctly.
I think you said it's in the 70s right now.
Okay, that's not bad. It was in the 40s a while ago. So.
And he was enjoying his roasty last night.
Yes, I saw that.
Is roasty? What's a roasty?
I have.
It is a potato pancake on steroids.
Ooh. Nice to
It
know.
is hash browns that's stuffed and grilled on both sides, and it's Brazilian and it's tasty.
Oh, Atkins friendly.
At a little place that I found on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives called Mrs. Potato.
Mrs. Potato.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, you'll notice this morning we have several guests, and in the middle of our guests is Denny Akins, my co-host for the morning. And good morning, Denny.
Good morning again.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
One of my oldest friends in the world. We won't say how old because that will age me more than I already need to be aged.
You're not that
It's okay, but I did hide under my desk for the atomic bomb.
Hey,
but
that's
anyway,
right. We both
squirrel, shiny things. But we have Tara and Callie this morning from Pinehill to talk a little bit about it. And I have a question for you. Can you, either one of you, tell me about the new things that you've had? You've had several repairs. The gate.
Yes.
That was really important. Tara, do you know anything about the gate?
I'm not
Should we
really in
let
the know.
Callie?
That's Callie.
Yeah. I want to make sure.
Yeah,
Callie?
Tara did come on.
We will let her talk.
I know. I don't want to.
She does get to talk later.
Yes, Tara came on for our tour. So
Tara can. Okay, I got it written down.
Tara can talk, definitely. But as far as the grants that we applied for,
beautiful entry gates.
Yes, and the gates as well, and our fence both came from the same grant. Very grateful to the Community Preservation Committee that we were able to apply for those grants, and they do have to vote and accept if they're going to grant you those funds, and they did. So we're so grateful.
But the gates, the large gates that
Yes.
are there, they were built in what year?
Well, they were all different years. So we actually got.
I didn't know that.
Yes, we actually got all three of them repaired that are along the front. So there's the one across from Highland Elementary. There's the one across from about where Smith Monuments is. And then there's the one right in the center, of course. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you exactly when they all were.
Okay.
But they all are more than 50 years old. I believe one of them is at least like 100 years old.
They really are beautiful. They really
Did the work on and the grants that you put in for that, was that done to coincide with all the improvements that were going on Western Avenue?
Well,
Because it seems so timely.
Oh, that's
Yes,
right. That
we
happened
did.
at the same time.
We
yeah.
did feel the urgency to try to make those grants happen at the same time because, they're bringing a new face to the center of town. It's not the center of town, but
Well, sure, it's near the center, and
near
it's a
the center.
gateway to the center.
And so we really kind of wanted to take advantage of that and try to say, okay, well, we really need help with bettering these things, especially our fence was very much in need. It was a safety issue there.
So it's like we're pretty too, can't we?
Yes,
Yeah.
and we'd love to be pretty too. It's just
Yes.
we're a nonprofit, and
Right.
it was very amazing to be able to receive those grants because we're not affiliated with the city, but we can still apply for grants, because we're such a historic location.
And you're a not-for-profit.
Correct, yes.
Well, one of the reasons you're here, obviously, is funding is an issue, as it is for many, many, many groups now. We're all feeling the sting of needing more money, and you don't get funds from the city. And I think that probably, as Denny mentioned, most people don't know. We assume that you're a city cemetery, but you are not. So you have something coming up that we need to address, and tell us what that
It's special.
is. It's very special.
Like we said, Tara can talk, so I will let
Okay,
Miss
Tara.
talk.
Tara
Yeah,
is.
my neck a rest there.
Excellent. All right. Well, we are working on grave conversations where we are allowing some of the residents from Pinehill to speak for themselves. And so those are the scripts that I have had the pleasure of researching and developing. I do have this semester, I was able to get an assistant researcher to join me. So Nathan Crane has stepped up and is doing an incredible job for us. So together we are working on that. And Saturday, June 1st, from 1 to 4, we are going to have this walking tour available. So tickets go on sale May 1st.
And they can get the tickets where?
At the Athenaeum or online. They're going to be available at Eventbrite. So
And how much are tickets?
$10. Excellent. Sorry, I didn't get that far.
That's right. Now, when you say the residents of the cemetery, I'm assuming you mean the deceased.
Yes.
So will there be
absolutely.
actors involved, or
Yes.
We should hope they're
celebrities?
involving actors. then.
Yes. Well, we were going
not
to
disturbing
summon
their
the dead,
peace.
but then we decided that would be,
Yeah.
they paid for these plots so they could rest.
Yeah.
It's a little. Yes, it would be a dead giveaway.
Oh, that's wonderful. And the date again is
June 1st.
June. Oh, beautiful.
But tickets will go on sale on May 1st.
Yes.
Exactly.
Rain date?
Thank you.
Rain date? Is there a rain date?
Yes, it's the day after, so it'll be the Sunday after is when if it rains, God
You said
forbid.
you were doing research. Where are you doing your research?
Well, a lot of it has been online, but I also have used resources from the Athenaeum. And of course, we're going to be doing more and more of that. We're about halfway there right now, so we're still grinding away on it. But yeah, the families were already selected. So Callie and the board had already decided that, which
stories?
which families, yes, and they're in a nice area that is easy to walk, so it's not going to be, an athletic event to enjoy
No.
this walking tour, and it will be nice and easy. So I have just, with Nathan's help this semester, gone in and Callie has provided some, resources that she had already found that were very interesting. So we're just putting it all together and trying to pluck out some of the, most interesting stories, but a lot of them have so many interesting stories, it's hard to choose.
Right.
Now, who are some of the, without giving it away, because I'm sure we don't want to give away the stories of
little
your
teaser.
open house, but who are some of the well-known people that you have buried there?
Yeah, I'd love to let Tara just give a little idea of who's going to be featured there. Just a few of, to let people know.
We're
what gonna be
dying. What
doing.
are our appetites?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure we have Nobles and Gillettes there.
Yeah.
Well, they're there, but I think they're all there, and there's so many to pick from. But the ones that we did select are excellent, and there's so many more opportunities for more tours. So
Yeah, we don't want to know about the tours. We want to know about anyone else that you might find. I know we have Governor Ely's there, is he not?
right, yes, yeah,
H.B. Smith is in there.
yes.
Have you seen the H.B. Smith stone with his son?
I'm not sure.
It's on the downside on the Smith. Is it not Smith Avenue side?
Check it out.
High Street. It's on the High Street
Oh,
side.
yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
And there is
What about
there's
Senator?
a tombstone there about their 2-year-old son. It's heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Heartbreaking.
And unfortunately, there are a lot of those in the cemetery.
Well,
Yes.
yes, because in the early days, almost everybody without question lost a child.
right.
Yes.
It was just a given.
Yeah.
It just did.
And sadly, a lot of the families I've researched lost a lot more than that.
They do.
Yeah.
Very few of them, sometimes in a multi-family household, they make it to adulthood. Sometimes they have 7 children and only 1 or 2 survive. But on the happier side,
Yes.
Right.
we're going to go on and on and on.
Yes.
So what are some of the other families that are there?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we have
Ely.
the Governor Joseph Ely's probably one of the most, if not the most notable. And he was actually one of the first Westfield resident in the 1930s to make a run for the U.S. presidency.
Oh, that's right.
And it's a very prominent grave right in the front. It's probably the
Yes,
first
it's the
thing
one
you notice.
everybody notices.
Yes, it's the first thing you
Big-
notice.
Who the heck is that?
Right. So that's him. That's Governor Joseph Ely. And of course, we also have, I love to mention Frank Stanley Beverage because
Yes.
we love Stanley
Stanley
Park.
Yes.
And of course, Stanley Home Products.
Right.
And the Beverage Foundation, in his name and his honor, has actually helped the cemetery in many ways. They've donated, to the building of our gate in the back, right across from the vocational high school, and also planting numerous trees in the cemetery. So we're very grateful to them that
Interesting.
they've. And his plot in the cemetery is always so well taken care of. The Stanley Park crew will plant just beautiful, beautiful flowers. I love looking at it every year. It's always wonderful.
Well
to see.
deserved.
Right, yes, and it's just such a prominent area there.
I have a question, though. This puzzles me because I don't understand the ins and outs of it. If the cemetery was opened in the 1840s, give or take, how is it that you have earlier graves there?
Yeah.
Were they reinterred?
Right, yeah, that's a great question. So sometimes it was that the person itself was moved, they were moved and reinterred. So disinterment is when
Because I know there's Revolutionary soldiers there.
And it's not always the case that the deceased themselves were moved. Sometimes just the stone itself was moved.
So they're not there?
Not always, unfortunately. But sometimes we have contradicting records with the old burying ground because what happened is a lot of those prominent families wanted to be in the new cemetery and have everyone be together and have just
I've heard that.
this large prominent stone. So a lot of the time, the person themselves might still be buried at the old burying ground, but maybe they moved their stone, or we still have sort of this record of them, but not a record. So it can be confusing.
Interesting.
I have to ask a little bit of a macabre question.
Sure.
Because this is it's so fascinating. Again, most people don't have an opportunity to talk to a cemeterian. However, my mom, who lived to 104, she had a very long life, but she lost, because she had such a long life, she was alive for many things that people today weren't alive for.
Absolutely.
One of the things that she lived through was the Spanish flu of 1917, 18. And I believe, I'm pretty sure that in some of the other cemeteries in town, we have sections of unmarked graves because of the nature of science at that time. They were afraid to bury people individually who died of a contagious illness. So they have
Interesting.
mass graves at a couple of the cemeteries. Does anything like that exist at Pine Hill?
So to my knowledge, well, actually, now I'm thinking more about it. So we do have, it's the term is, a welfare grave. It's graves
Yes.
for those that can't afford
Indigents,
a grave.
people who are indigent,
yes,
yeah.
less fortunate.
Yes.
A lot of the times in the past, they called them paupers' graves.
Yes.
Right.
We
Wouldn't
have
be politically correct today.
we have ones. Yes. We have ones that are deemed a town lot, which was purchased by the town. We have ones that are deemed city, like they all just have these all different names.
Different
And
demarcations.
specifically, there's areas that were from a sanatorium.
Yes.
Can't quite recall which sanatorium it was, but I know they had.
I would suspect the one on East Mountain.
Yes, I believe so.
I don't
It
think
could
it was.
be, but don't forget that where we worked
course,
was the
Togo,
pest
yeah.
house.
Yeah. Well,
And
we
they were
worked at it.
buried on the back of Westfield State.
Is that right?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When they built the new...
Is that marked?
No, when they built the new men's dorm 1,000 years ago. And it was built, and it was purposely built as far away from the women as they possibly
Yes.
could. They did find skeletons from
Davis.
Spanish flu, they thought, from Revolutionary War soldiers that were
Wow.
kept in that pest house that you and I were in.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
like that rumor
Yeah,
of,
Kathy and I
it's
worked at a
haunted.
camp that was located behind Westfield State, and
Right
and it was
down the hill.
it was a at one point it was a hospital for infectious diseases.
Yes.
And a sanitarium of sorts.
Yeah.
Creepy.
I
So,
do believe it was the one you're mentioning, though.
I think so. yeah.
And that
Could have
was
been, that was a tuberculin
oh,
hospital.
yes, so large
That makes sense.
tuberculosis outbreaks, and they are in the same area.
And what area are they in? Is that the backside on the King Street side?
Yes, correct. Yeah, and a lot of them are sadly unmarked because they couldn't afford to market. But you'll see a few little stones there. But that's why we always also try to let people know that we prefer them to stay on the roads, because
Right.
just because there's not a stone there doesn't mean that there's not
There isn't
someone
someone there.
laid
Yeah,
to rest
I
there.
understand that.
Yeah, so that's kind of a big thing. Is sometimes people will pull off and don't pull off
Oh,
there.
I know. yeah.
What is the oldest section of the cemetery?
So it is basically the area where we're doing these tours.
the
So,
King-
but they
the
do
other one.
vary, because of the fact that they would fill up areas with these large family, because these areas we're featuring, like one of them has 20 graves within the family, the whole family. It's actually the Rand family. And so they have these very large lots, so that would take up space very quickly. So there are old stones throughout the entire cemetery, but really this area that we're featuring is probably the oldest.
So Tara, how many scripts did you have to write for this? And I know, being a writer, I know about the rewrites. And I'm going to give you some of my advice after years and years of writing.
Please.
At some point, just say, "Okay, I'm done," because every time you go back to it, you'll say, "Oh, but wait a minute."
Exactly.
Stop. You just have to stop. So how many did you really have to research?
There are 7 total that we are working on as far as families are concerned, but as Callie mentioned, there are often a lot of people that are
In that
in the
family.
family plot. So, and we don't want to exclude anyone. So, we can't mention maybe every single person, but we're doing our best to, bring out highlights from multiple generations that are all there. So.
Interesting. And you also have Jean Thoreau working for you sometimes.
Yes, we're so grateful to Gene
Yeah, he's a
and
wonderful man.
this wonderful group of veterans that he's put together. And they work and they clean stones and they repair stones. And when you've been open since 1842, a lot of these stones, the time takes a hold and they weather and they break. And you'll see that throughout the cemetery. And Gene is so wonderful, and he's the Veterans Graves Officer for the city of Westfield and for the city of Southwick, I believe.
He's also head of the Quabbin
Yes.
The history of the Quabbin Cemetery
Yes.
up there, too. I know he's doing things
yeah.
there. I know he's also done things in Russell.
Yep.
He's cleaned graves up in Russell because I see him up there with some friends of mine. So
Yes.
he's all over, and he works
He
very
really
hard
is.
for the veterans'
Yeah.
graves. Who takes care of the rest of the upkeep? That's a huge cemetery.
Yes. So we have our small crew that do the mowing and the weed whacking. And so a lot of the times folks will see maybe really overgrown hosta or really overgrown bushes or just a lot filled with a lot of weeds in the planting bed. And that is unfortunately the responsibility of the family members, and the family members aren't always living to do that. So when it's been a few years and we notice things, we try to take care of it ourselves, but a lot of the time, there's not living family members anymore to care for those graves.
Has there been over the history of the cemetery, has there been additions to the cemetery, new lands purchased?
Yeah.
Because topographically, that's a very unusual cemetery.
It
You have
is.
like a main campus,
Yes.
and then you have this little side campus, but then you have the Smith
Backside.
Avenue side, which is
haunted
almost like a completely different cemetery.
Right, and a lot of times people will say, "Oh, that's you guys too? I thought that was another
Yeah,
cemetery."
yeah. Because you've kept
It's quite separated.
You didn't go in and level the property at any time, which
No,
was great.
well, there's a whole entire, we have a whole woods. So it's about 55 acres, including all that woods we have.
The backside.
And you don't bury anyone on the hill.
Yes, there are graves on the hill.
Yes.
No kidding. Do
Wait, you
still
know
have-
the path that you go down?
Excuse
in
me?
the
It's
back
the Smith Ave
corner.
steps, there are, yes.
In the back corner, there's steps going down that have been there
Which I don't
forever.
encourage anyone to use.
Forever
They are
and
not
ever.
safe.
Really? Really? Oh, we loved those when we were kids.
Well, if people
there are
choose to
graves
do that,
there.
but we as the cemetery do not encourage you
Right,
to do that.
right.
Interesting.
At your
Don't
own
do that.
risk.
Guys, don't listen to me, but it was a lot of fun when I was a kid.
So you could other plots for sale on the hill?
We don't sell there anymore, no.
Oh.
Well, there are, there are many
very
hills.
odd.
So I guess there's, the round hill
Yeah, I'm
where
thinking
the
the main-
scattering garden is.
Yes.
There are lots there. It is cremation only
Right.
because we dig with a backhoe now.
Right, you
not,
gotta be
we
able to
don't
get a
hand dig
backhoe in there.
graves.
Right.
And of course, when there were full burials there, they were hand digging graves.
Yeah.
These are very old, the ones on
Yes,
the back side.
yes,
I mean, they're long.
they are.
They precede me.
Oh, those trees might have been either not
Right.
there or small at the time.
Yes, and also we try to stay away from trees now.
Of course, yeah.
Because, you cut the,
The
roots,
roots
you're
get
slowly
in there,
killing that
yeah.
tree. So
Yeah, they
no
do.
full burials by a tree. Sorry.
Tara, is there anything you'd like to add or you'd like to tell us that we haven't hit yet?
We have covered so much wonderful information. I'm just really excited to be a part of it, and I'm really excited for the event to happen and for everyone to come and learn and enjoy the day at Pine Hill.
Where are the funds going? Are you doing this for a specific reason?
Yes, so there are many needs of Pine Hill.
Of course.
It's such a large ground. So figuring out, okay, what is a need that we want people to be able to feel like they contributed to, of course, with, what you're paying for these tickets. So it is, of course, the restoration of the cemetery as well as the restoration of the stones. And they are so in need to be ones that need to be raised and cleaned and like we said, all that work that Jean has put in. Restoration in general of a lot of the things that we have.
It is a
need
huge
attention.
undertaking. It really is a huge undertaking.
And
And it's a huge responsibility for you
Yes.
to have to be in charge, both of you, to create this event. We
Mm-hmm.
do appreciate it. The city appreciates it. As a member of the Historical Commission, I do appreciate all of your work and your efforts in the history of Westfield. It is very important that we allow the community to see some of these things and be aware of what we have. Even to walk through a cemetery and spend a Sunday afternoon walking through and looking at the graves and seeing the names of of people that have come before us and that are important to our own personal history. It really matters. Is there anything that you would like to add that we haven't touched on?
Sure. Well, we've talked about a lot, and I think that's wonderful. I also just wanted to give a nod to the wonderful planning committee we've had for the tours, and we have a good group, but we are still looking for more volunteers if folks are interested in being a part of the production, if they're interested in acting or guiding a tour. And if you'd like to join us, they can contact me at my email. And that's Pinehill Cemetary Westfield @gmail.com. Or they can always call me at the office, and that's 413-568-7026.
And where is your office? Because it's kind of hidden.
It is. I'm hiding.
I mean, I know because we live on the.
We live in the Highlands.
Yes,
yeah.
if you don't know, then you might not know where I am.
Right.
So I'm actually, the office is not within the cemetery. It's actually across the street from our main gate, and it is at 140 West Silver Street.
Do you hope that this to become an annual event, or is this just a one-time?
Oh, no, I would love for us to be able to
So
continue.
you see how it is. There'll be not to be a punny here, but there'll be a post-mortem of the event afterwards, and you'll discuss.
And we'll figure out where we where we went wrong.
Oh, that's terrible, Dennis.
It is
That's
bad, but
terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my God, your jokes are just dead. We can't resist, can we?
No.
Well, it sounds like a great event. Are you going to publicize it? We're going to have
Yes.
articles in the newspaper, social media, ways to get the public in.
Yes, yep,
That's
and
a
it'll
difficult
be
thing.
Yeah, it'll be on our Facebook page too. So you can.
Oh, so you do have a Facebook presence.
We do. Yep, it's Pinehill Cemetery on Facebook.
Oh, catchy title.
You know, goes
Clever.
along with our name.
Cemetery.
But yeah, so we'll be posting the Eventbrite links because that's where the online tickets will be sold, and it will be. We're trying to mostly do the sales through the Athenaeum and online.
Okay.
So tickets at the event at the day of will be limited. So we do encourage folks to.
So is there a limit to how many people you can take on the tour, or is it going to be a pretty well open?
Well, there are going to be a maximum of 30 folks in each tour, and it will be, I believe, 9 sets because it's 1 to 4 and it's about an hour. And they are going to stagger over each. You'll see, it'll be cool. But
It will be very cool, and
I'm
I'm looking
looking
forward
forward
to
to
it. Yeah, I can't wait.
I also have to give you kudos to one other thing about Pine Hill. Living near there in the fall, you have some of the most magnificent maple trees in that cemetery. There, I take pictures of them every year because they're so beautiful.
if you have pictures, you should send them to us.
I will. I'd
love
be glad to
getting
share
photos.
them. Yeah.
I will very quickly share the Palmer Pine Hill connection. There's quite a large grave and a large stone for the Palmer family. And the Palmer family was William the Nailer, was one of the original people to come into Plymouth. He came in on the second ship to come in, the Fortune, which came in the following November. And unfortunately, the citizens of Plymouth, in addition to losing half of their population the first winter, were not prepared because 38 men came over on the Fortune, and they didn't have supplies for them either. So the second winter wasn't much better. But William the Nailer Palmer was our original ancestor, and the Palmer family, which moved to Westfield somewhere around the early 1900s, and they are buried in Pine Hill. They were we had 13 generations of farmers from William the Nailer in 1620.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And they are buried in Pine Hill.
Yes. Yes, they have quite a large stone.
It is. It's a long history of the Palmer family.
Yeah.
Of which I am not originally. I'm the Irish.
Oh, I know. Yeah, you're the.
Came over
still
on the
claim
boat
it, though.
down from Canada. So, ladies, we do thank you. We hope that we've been able
Very
to
much
cover
so.
it. We hope that people take an interest in Pinehill Cemetery. We do hope that you've marked down the date of the tour and get your ticket. And if you have any questions, I'm sure that you can call these ladies. You can get them online, or you can ask on Facebook. If you didn't write it down, which I never do, If you didn't write it down carefully, I think if you just Google it, it will lead you right to
June
Kelly's
1st is
address.
pretty easy to
Sarah.
remember.
Yes.
Dennis, did you have any last-minute questions?
No, just
for
what
them?
a pleasure, and thank you for being so open.
so much.
And it just renews my interest in Pine Hill and wanting to go back there and roam around. I have friends buried in Pine Hill, so I do visit them occasionally, but now I'll go back more.
And if anybody ever needs help with finding a location, I'm available for that
Wonderful,
as well.
wonderful.
All right. Thank you very much, Peter.
you.
If you want to
Thank
take
you.
us out,
So
and
nice
we'll
to
be
meet
back
you.
shortly.
Hey, well, I'm a friendless stranger in the black sedan. Won't you hop inside my car? I got pictures, got candy, I'm a lovable man, and I can take you to the nearest star. I'm your vehicle, baby. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. By now I'm sure you know that I love you, that I need you. I want you, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. Well, if you wants to be a movie star, I'm gonna take you to a Hollywood. But if you wanna stay just like you are, you know I think you really should. I'm your vehicle, baby. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. By now I'm sure you know that I love you, that I need you. I want you, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. Oh, you know I do. Well, I'm the friendless stranger in the black sedan. Won't you hop inside my car? I got pictures, candy, I'm a lovable man, and I can take you to the nearest star. I'm your vehicle, babe. I'll take you anywhere you wanna go. I'm your vehicle, woman. By now I'm sure you know that I love you, I need you, I want you, I got to have you. Great God in heaven, you know I love you. And I'm your vehicle, babe. Alright. You know I love you, I need you, I want you, got to have your child. Great God in heaven, you know I love you.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
No, good Lord, no.
All righty. Good morning, everybody, and we are back. That was a quick break. Thank you, Peter, very much. And this is Kathy Palmer coming to you from WCPC, Westfield Community Programming on Channel 15 or viewable.
Sorry.
Well, of all the. Can you hear me now? Can you hear
Clang.
me now? A clang.
feel like I'm
Are we live? WCPC Channel 15 or WestfieldTV.org in cooperation with Westfield State University, 89.5 FM. Behind the glass, still guiding us, leading us, and making sure we sound good or relatively good is Peter Coles. Peter, again, thank you very much for being with us and putting us all together this morning.
You're welcome.
We do appreciate all you do, and we appreciate all you do for this city of Westfield.
We do. Peter works very hard.
Any of the broadcasts that you see, city council, important meetings, events around town, it is most probably Peter Coles who is behind all of the work being done. So we thank you, Peter. We also have Dennis Atkinson as my co-host. It is usually Harry Rock. Harry was unavailable today, having some things on his plate that he had to take care of. So thank you very much, Denny, for filling in.
You're very welcome. I consider myself anything but Harry, obviously.
Well, you're a little bit shorter than Harry.
But we love Harry.
I do. I absolutely adore Harry Rock. He is pretty much the face of Mr. Westfield.
He is.
So
He is that.
everyone knows him. In between us, we have a dear friend of mine and someone who is very familiar to the city of Westfield, and that is Melissa Kilbasa, who runs the Sandy Meadow Farm Obedience School.
Ooh.
Do indeed.
She does indeed, and you're going to want to stay relatively close to the microphone. So get started. Missy, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how you got here. The last viewer we had on was from, what, Atlanta?
Yeah, she one of them was.
How'd she end up in Westfield?
Yes,
That's exactly what I said. What are you doing here? But you're not much different.
I'm not all that much different. So I actually grew up in New Jersey, right outside New York City.
Oh,
she's
in
a Jersey.
the Oranges? Or?
Oh, very close to the Oranges. Parsippany. Do you know
Oh,
what that
yeah,
is?
I do.
She's a Jersey
Big
girl.
town. I am a Jersey girl,
Yes.
tried and true.
they
I
say.
came up to UMass to go to school, and I was a animal science major at UMass with plans on going to veterinary school. That was my original plan. When I grew up in New Jersey, my mother raised German Shepherds, so I was one of those kids that
I
grew
did
up.
not know that
She
about your
did,
mom.
Yeah. So I
interesting
grew up
fact.
with dog hair in my mouth
Oh,
from
I
the time that
know,
I
but
could.
German Shepherd puppies, oh my
I
God.
know, how adorable,
Oh,
right? You just wait for those ears to pop. They're
Absolutely.
So cute. So then I went to UMass and met my beloved husband of now for over 35 years. We've been together. And I made a different career choice at that point. I had some medical things that I decided veterinary school might not be in my future. And I went into a behavior path instead. So I started doing some behavior work and really, really just absolutely loved it. After growing up with German Shepherds, you kind of have to do some behavior
Yes,
work when you live
yes.
with lots of German Shepherds. So I kind of grew up with that. And then at UMass, one of what I'm going to call my mentor was the shepherd at UMass, actually, at the time. She and I are still very good friends. And she ran the entire young stock program at UMass.
The what program?
It was called, well, it was the young stock program, which
Yes.
was the animal science. And originally, those barns were where the Mullen Center is right
Yes,
now. So
that's
we
right.
had all the barns down there.
Right.
And the entire farm down there, she did all the beef cows, all the sheep, the goats, and the pigs. It was run with just her and one border collie.
Well, they were known for the longest time as such a great
It was
place for
agricultural
animal
school, right, yeah.
husbandry and agriculture.
Absolutely,
know.
yeah.
It
was a
was
great program.
started as an
Oh,
agricultural school.
of course, yeah.
Yeah.
beginning.
And that's why I ended up here from New Jersey, was because their animal science program was really great. So I moved up here. So I got connected with her, and just absolutely fascinated me, the relationship between her and the border collie and the way that they could just run that entire farm with one person and one dog. It was
Absolutely.
amazing to me. So I started to get into some behavior. Graduated from UMass, certified as a veterinary technician, worked in an office where I was very fortunate to have a very well-known veterinary behaviorist that worked at that office, and he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. So I did a lot of work with him for a couple of years, had met my husband again during college. We had plans on getting married and got married, moved down to Westfield, continued to apprentice with a couple of very well-known trainers. So I kind of got my training in that fashion, and then certified. So I am a certified dog trainer. I did
Wonderful.
with APDT many years ago now, and here's where I am. So
when did you formally open your business?
I was teaching in Westfield back in 1989. I taught a little bit before then. We built the building on the farm property in 1997. So I was teaching on the farm before we built the training center. And God bless my students at that time, because everything was outside, and we actually used the upstairs of one of the barns for a while because I didn't have a space. But they wanted to work with me. So I said, well, we're going to work
I have to
upstairs
ask,
in the barn.
is your husband one of the cabasas that has a long history in Westfield?
He is. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because it's not that common a name.
It is not, and they're
Yeah,
all.
and
Yes,
it is in Westfield.
They're all
Yeah.
connected here in Westfield.
Yes, they
Yep. I'm married to the youngest brother, so
Got it.
that's
Got
my
it.
husband.
Yes.
Who I always tell everybody, he's been with me for 35 years. I don't think he really knew what he was getting into when he married the dog trainer, because he was not a dog person particularly.
He is now.
He is now, but he is just a little bit spoiled, and I do remind him of that because he's always lived with fairly well-trained dogs.
And you're now a behaviorist, so I'm sure.
I'm not a behaviorist. Yeah, so I'm going to clarify that.
Yeah,
'cause
I know.
That term goes flying around out there.
Does. It
Let
does.
me explain the difference between Missy's dogs and everyone else's in the world. They were doing a calendar of Westfield and jobs in Westfield, and the woman came to our farm to take a picture of the workings on the farm, and she said, "Oh, you have a border collie?" I said, "Yes, we do." And she said, "Oh, I was just at Missy's house talking to her." And I said, well, let me explain. I said, "My dog is a working dog. However, Missy's dogs could probably drive the tractors in the fields."
That's great.
There would be the difference. She will look at her dog, and her dog will just look at her and go, "Yes, what do you want me to do now?" Unlike the cat who says, "I'll get back to you later."
Yeah, I'll get back to you next life.
So, yes.
Next life.
Yes. So now tell everyone where the dog training school is.
So we are on Union Street here in Westfield, 342 Union Street. It is part of the rest of the farm, so we are still farming. We're, I think, the last farmer on Union Street, but we are still there. We put the farm
Probably
property
one
on.
of the last farmers, period.
It could be, unfortunately. Yeah, it's a tough career. But we did put the building went up again in 1997, which allowed me to have people to the location. It is climate controlled. We actually just redid the floor. We put a beautiful epoxy floor down in the training room, so it's kind of cool.
Are you near the feed?
Well, depending on which way you're coming, I'm very
Yes.
close to the feed. Yeah,
Yes.
so we're about.
Because that's the only area of Union that still has land. And
Correct.
The mini golf. They're
Yeah,
right
do you know
across
the?
from
Yes.
mini
Yes,
golf.
we're right across the street. That's the main farm.
Right
So
across
it's
the street
right
there.
across the street. That's where the training school is.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So
Is
that's where we are.
do you have a large hill behind you?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my mom lived with her family about in that location.
I never knew that.
Yes, yeah. During the Depression, her father decided to move off the hill and go to Union Street because he wanted to get some farm animals, and there was land down there. There used to be a used car lot down there. And
Well, there still is.
there is?
Yeah.
Is that near you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was that where that site is where their home was.
Yeah.
And they during the Depression they got a cow and chickens and they survived. And my mother used to tell me stories about how all the hobos of the time would come off the train, and her mother would always make them a plate, make them eat outside or in the barn in the winter. But I digress.
Yeah,
But
it's it
great
used
history.
to be Union Street used to be, and it's a little bit of a shame because it's beautiful farmland.
Oh
and it's-
yes, absolutely. Yeah, because
it's
it's near
all
the
been built
river,
up.
so it's
It's
fertile,
beautiful
fertile
farmland,
ground.
Yeah. But we do our best. We
Yes.
hang in there, and you know how it goes.
And keep going, and you
Keep
work
going,
on
yep.
it. So you run a lot of classes. What kind of classes do you run?
So we run everything right from puppy kindergarten classes, which is for puppies starting class between the age of 9 and 16 weeks with a couple of caveats. We run a basic manners class, which is any dog typically over 4 months of age right through adulthood. So people that are get a rescue dog that's not a puppy and they're looking to get started with some training.
Interesting.
We offer those classes. After basic, we offer a variety of things. So we do offer some competition level classes for competition obedience and rally for folks that want to try that road path. We also offer companion dog classes. So we do a better manners. We offer CGC, which is Canine Good Citizen. We have sniffer skills and dancing dog and trick classes and shaping skills and all sorts of. There's a lot of stuff available.
How many trainers do you have?
I am so blessed. I have 7 trainers that work with me now.
7.
That's
Yeah, so
amazing.
everybody's part-time, and I'm going to just give a shout out because a lot of them, because they work with me part-time, they're also certified trainers that run their own businesses. So we are very fortunate. Paws of Nature, who's out of Westfield, teaches classes for us on Wednesday. Jim Helms, who's run Dog Pals, which is up in Huntington, he trains with us on Thursday. And Elizabeth Deppen, who runs Take the Lead, she's out of South Hadley, Mass. She's here with us on Fridays. So when they're here with me, everybody runs my program if they're teaching classes here. That way all the students are getting the same information and the same techniques.
You're running it's like a collaborative.
We do. It's, and one of the things that I always say is, I've been at this a very long time, so I've been teaching dogs for nearly 40 years, but I don't really consider myself necessarily a specialist in anything. I mean, I do a lot of the classroom stuff. I do specialize in a pediatric program. But one of the things that's really nice for me is having the collaborative of all the other trainers. They all have their own specialties.
Absolutely.
So I feel like I'm a resource to people. If they have a dog that's having separation issues, you know, I could be your standing board. Come talk to me. I could work that through, but I have somebody that specializes in that. So I'm going to
Okay, could you send them to my house, because Terry's not there right now, and I guarantee Wilson is in the window waiting. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Is there a class that's the most popular, do you think?
Our basic class is the most popular because it takes a wide range of dogs from, you know, again, people that have graduated puppy kindergarten that just want to move up and continue their training to people that skipped puppy kindergarten for whatever the reason, they didn't know about it or got the puppy after 4 months of age. And there's a lot of rescue dogs that are coming into the area.
Really?
Oh, a ton of rescue dogs in the area.
Now, where are they coming from?
Most of them, I mean, there's a lot of rescue organizations throughout the country.
Yes.
The majority of the dogs that I see come from down south, from Texas, Arkansas.
I'm hearing that too as well. They're flying
there's a
them
lot.
in from.
Why is that? What's going on?
Well, I have my own opinion on that. I don't know that it's always well received.
Exactly.
So, but there are some wonderful organizations here. Dakin, who we have over in Springfield, is fabulous. They're amazing, and they do a really great job of screening dogs. So I always refer people there if they're looking for a dog. They're good about trying to make sure we're matching dogs. I'm a little hesitant to match a person from a picture on a website.
Oh,
They go,
absolutely.
I'm getting
Very
that one because the
difficult.
dog is so cute. And
it could be a nightmare.
yeah, it oftentimes is. It doesn't work out. And some of the rescues are, you know, not very good about helping with situations and taking an animal back that is inappropriate for that was placed in the wrong situation. So I just try to remind people to really vet your rescue as well. Just really read that fine print.
Exactly.
And do you have that resource material? And I don't want names, but if you saw an organization come up that you could say,
I do. I get that all the time. I've been doing this for a long time, so I have a lot of very, very long. I have clients that have been,
know,
5, 6, 7 dogs with me over the years, and they're looking to get a new dog. I'll do it with breeders as well. They'll say, hey, I'm looking at this breeder. They'll send me. I say, just send me the website, because I'm very good at looking and reading between the lines and seeing, here's what's not on there.
Right.
And what should be on there,
What
it's
should
not
be.
on there. So we might want to ask a few more questions about that.
this dog is creatively friendly.
Well, it's always interesting because they'll send me the write-ups oftentimes from Pet Finder and wherever that dog is listed. And again, I tend to read between the lines. And I go, I think the reason it says that is because I want you to ask that specific question before you decide to take this dog. And not that there's not appropriate placements for most of those dogs.
Yes,
of course there is. But, you know, unfortunately, some of the people that are making those decisions on placements are looking simply to move the dog, and they're not necessarily making what's in the best interest of both the dog and the family. And I think that needs to be really
And
important.
oftentimes it's easy to justify in their minds because it's like a home is better than no home.
Right.
But you know as well as I do is that
It's not.
You know,
It's
it is not at all. And
Yeah.
and a dog is like any other living creature. He deserves or she deserves to be in a suitable environment.
The proper home, right,
Yes.
the proper. And the other thing that I have, and I've talked to some of the rescues about this, is when you place a dog in the wrong situation, you really make that family never want to rescue again.
Of course, absolutely.
Because they're not going to repeat that journey.
No,
and
they'll
I'm
be
like,
afraid.
And they're a great family. Don't do that to them. You want them to take more dogs from you
Right.
because they're really great, but you've now soured that relationship. They don't trust it.
Right.
And they're not going to do it
Jenny,
anymore.
where do you get your dogs? You said you foster some elderly.
Yeah, well, we when Mike and I first got together, we decided we both love dogs. So a former partner of my husband's is a very, very large farmer who has moved around New England, but he's a specialist in Jersey cows. But he also is a master cheesemaker, so he has dairy cows, Jersey cows, and he always keeps 4 or 5 Australians on his farm because he loves them, number one, and number two, he uses them. So, you know, what he does, for years, he was retiring his working dogs at about 9 years of age. So we had a sower, and he would only give them to families that he really trusted. And a couple of his came to us sick because they really had Lyme-borne illnesses, which is a big problem. Now there's medications that are improving the possibilities of farm animals, dogs not getting Lyme, but it's not perfect. And so we took we took most of our dogs from him. We were going to adopt from Dakin, because when you go in there, and of course, so many young families go in there, they don't want the dogs that are oldest or infirmed, and we don't have a problem with that. We're happy to take a dog that only has another year or two to live, and either because of their age or because of a history of illness. You have to be tough of mind because you have to be able to say goodbye. And I'm one that falls in love with dogs very quickly. It doesn't take me but a few weeks, and I said, okay, this is a bond.
I have a client that does that. She takes on the geriatric dogs that end up in the shelter. She's actually known by a couple of the locations in the area.
And they'll call her sometimes.
And they'll call her because she will take them. And I always say those dogs, they're so grateful.
Oh, they're so grateful, and they deserve. I mean, I believe
they're so
that
grateful to have an end of life.
Dog deserves a good
amazing.
home at the end.
Yep.
A lot of people, not a lot of people, I don't know, but they tell me that when things get rough, a lot of people turn dogs in.
They do.
That's the time.
Yeah, they do.
Why would you do that?
I don't understand it. Well, maybe it's sometimes it's financial. I mean, we know that if you have to have a surgery on a dog or the medication becomes expensive, and a lot of people, they have children, their monies and resources are going into future college and stuff. They're not going to go into an ill dog. But there should be some way that they can find people and not just dump the dog, because the dog is devastated.
It is.
When
It's
they
so
get
hard for an
turned
elderly
in.
dog to show up in a shelter. They
they
don't
understand.
Of course, they're going to act sometimes a little irrationally in a shelter. They are scared, and they have no idea where their loved ones went. But you can't. You're not gonna.
And I would just say, everyone that she's ever taken in, she's never regretted it. Like everyone, she said she has never regretted it.
And you haven't either.
Never.
Yeah. Yep.
They're just so happy to have.
And you have them for whatever length of time you have, and you share that end of life with them.
Yeah,
and
and you're with them. I'm a big believer. No matter how hard it's been for me, I'm with that dog at the end. I do not. The idea of turning a dog.
We've done that, but
it's hard.
We did that with
It's
Gracie.
hard, yeah.
We did that with Gracie.
There's a service for that now too, though. There's a veterinarian that specializes.
Really?
Paws. I think it's Paws at Peace. And she's amazing.
Do they come into your home?
They will. She specializes in euthanasia, and she's just so.
We had someone come to our house.
Yeah, really great.
So.
And that's nice to have the dog.
It is.
And,
because dogs know when they're in an environment.
Wouldn't we all love that
smells.
gift, to die at home with your family around
Yes,
you? What a beautiful
exactly.
gift, right?
Yeah.
If we can offer that to our pets
And
as well.
even if you can't do that.
I know.
On a happier note,
Well, but this
I grew up in the
though.
time when you opened the door, you let the dog out, the dog
I
ran, the
know.
dog came home at night, and that's no longer true. So please tell everyone why it is so important to socialize and train your dog nowadays.
Yeah. So
Besides the liabilities.
Well, there are a lot of liabilities, and it is really important because dogs, unless you're going to have your dog, I always say, are you going to live in a bubble with your dog? If that's your plan, and I have some elderly people that are never going to leave their home with their dog, well, they probably don't need to socialize that dog because they're not going anywhere.
Right.
But if your goal is, I'd like to take the dog to the kids' baseball game and I'd like to take the dog on vacation, you want to have, I kind of think of the dog's head, and I'm a little antiquated here, but I say like a file cabinet. Today I should say a computer. And what I want to actually do is have a file in that file cabinet, or whatever we call them in computers.
Thumb drive.
There you go. And I want to have a file that has an experience, a positive, happy experience with all of these things that this dog is going to come in contact with over the course of their life. So I think the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is true socialization, which is filling that file cabinet. That window actually closes by about 16 to 18 weeks of age.
That's interesting.
And that's important. Because
Yes.
I get a lot of people that'll call me, they just adopted a dog, it's 8 months of age and it needs socialization. I'm not doing that because your puppy's, that ship has sailed. It's too late to, I can retrain. We can do a lot of acclimation. We can do a lot of habituation. There's lots of terms I can throw out there. But it's really not socialization anymore. It's
Which
different.
is a natural process.
It's different, right. So that's why it's so important. That's why I think puppy kindergarten class with a well-run puppy kindergarten class, so some of them are not as well-run as others. And I'm not saying that mine is the best. I'm just saying be careful where you go, because there
yeah,
are
of
some
course.
that
I
there's a lot of other very good ones
And
in our
it's okay.
area.
You can promote too.
Yeah, there's a lot of other ones very good in our area, but
Right.
there's some that are not so good.
Right.
So we want to make sure that that socialization process is appropriate. And when I say appropriate, that means within the context of what that dog can handle in that moment.
Exactly.
And you never want to. There's a lot of YouTube and TikTok trainers that all I see them do is what we call in the dog world just flooding dogs. They just take these dogs that are really nervous or worried and just throw them into situations to make them get over it. And there's a lot
Wouldn't
of
that make them worse?
It could.
you have a
Wouldn't it
I'm
make them more
going to say a
anxious?
60-40 chance. 40% of the time they might just kind of figure it out and get over. 60% of the time what you're going to get is what we in the dog world called learned helplessness, which means the dog is just going to shut down
Right.
because there's nothing else that they can possibly do in that moment.
Right.
And now you have a dog who's not reacting and is well trained. And it's not well trained.
That's even scarier because
Yeah.
What could come out if you then
Correct.
assume
Yeah.
they're going to be able to handle this kind of stress and then
And then
put
you
them
keep
in
doing
an
it, and then
environment.
So I always say when you're socializing badly, and you keep putting an animal over their threshold of what they can actually handle, it's sort of like I call it like a soda bottle with a cork in it.
Yeah.
And you're corking it, so the soda's staying, but it's still carbonated. And
Right.
at some point,
Right.
that cork's liable to pop, and you don't want to be the person in front of that dog when that happens.
Right.
So socialization requires safe and careful, slow acclimation. And I always tell my folks too when they come to puppy class, socialization does not mean to have interaction. So it doesn't mean you have to take the puppy out and they have to meet the 50 people at the picnic.
Yeah.
Take the puppy, let them stand on the sidelines, watch the 50 people
Sure,
at the picnic.
yeah.
Just watch the kids run by. They don't have to meet them, they don't have to interact with them.
Right.
They just have to see them.
Right.
And everything's
Without
going
panicking,
well.
without
Exactly.
feeling
They feel really
fear.
comfortable, they're watching, they're
They're
good for you.
enjoying.
I'm giving reinforcement for the puppy feeling that way. We start to get a little bit nervous. We'll go for a walk, we'll go for a sniff
Yeah.
break, we'll do something, just let them.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's it for the day. Maybe my socialization for a really nervous puppy is going to be 5-10 minutes a day. That's all this puppy can handle. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to try to build that up.
And that allows for every dog, just like people, they're a little different.
Mm-hmm. Everyone
so you
is
have
different.
You have to observe as well
Yeah.
to see what they're capable of.
Right.
Of,
And I hear that a lot. I'll have people that'll call me and they say, I've had German Shepherds for 20 years. I don't know what I'm doing with this one. Because it's different. It's a different
Yeah, of
personality
course,
dog.
of
And I understand what you did before worked for all the other dogs. Maybe they were very similar temperament. This one's different. We have to change that. So the goal of that socialization is to prepare that dog for that. And then in terms of the addition to the socialization would be the training, so that you can help the dog succeed in certain situations. You've got skills in there that can keep the dog under control. If you're doing something out in the public setting, you've got skills in there that can keep the dog happy. You've got company coming over. And not everybody's a dog person, right? I think that's just horrible, but it is what it is. So if you have company,
We don't have
I know
them
I shouldn't
over.
have those.
That's
People,
it.
I always say that. I go, don't come to my house if you're not a dog person. It's just a bad idea.
right.
But not everybody is a dog person. So if people do come to my house that are not interested in my dogs would very safely crate. If I tell them in their crates, they're just going to go. If I tell them on their beds, they're going to go. If I say, okay, we're going to on the porch while people are visiting because they don't want you visiting with them. My dog, they're very happy, but they're trained to do all those things. I don't have people come over and then shove my dog in the crate, or people come over and I shove
No,
my
so
dog
it's not
outside.
a punishment.
That's not what I do.
No.
I train those
Right,
behaviors
right.
so that when I need
Right.
to, I pull that card. We're going to pull that crate card right now. You need to go in your crate because these people are a little bit nervous about you. Kennel in, boom, they go,
Just do
lie
it.
down, go to sleep. It's not.
Are you sure we shouldn't put the people in the crate?
Sometimes we
and let the dog?
do, yeah. I do tell the people, I said, the general public is not usually your friend when you're training dogs because everybody's an expert. And
Oh, everyone.
And,
That's so true. That's so true.
And that can be very challenging when you're working with a dog that has some concerns and the public's helping you. You're really not. Really not helping me.
Don't tell me how to
I'm
do it.
picturing this
Yeah.
seesaw right now. You not only dealing with training the dog, but you really have to
And honestly,
training the owners.
Most of my
You
training
have
is
to train
training
the
people.
owner.
Yes,
And I tell that all the
yes.
time. I always-
Expectationally, oh my God.
If
yes.
you are right, your dog will be right. If you are fair, the dog is going to get it. It's not about just teaching the dog, it's about teaching you as well.
Yeah, it's a partnership.
It's mostly about you teaching it. And all of my training is based on that. It's all based on relationship training. So I think that that's a really important part of the
So
of the
your puppy
process.
classes, are the owners there with them?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
so that this is
yeah.
a joint venture.
Correct. So this is them learning how to, and we do a lot of body language talk
Yes.
in my classes to learn what your dog is saying, understand how the dog is feeling. So, and that's something that they need to know.
Yep.
Because they're the one living with the dog. I see the dog for an hour a week. That's not helpful for me to help you in that 1 hour. I'm going to help you, but
Right.
you've got to take that blueprint home now, and you've got to be able to apply
Right,
it.
and you got to report back.
And you've got to be fluid,
Yep,
right?
yep,
So
yep.
change what needs to be changed in that moment.
All right, Peter, we're going to take a short break here. Are you still there? Thank you.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio 89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
And good morning. Welcome back. This is Kathy, not Ken, this morning on WCPC Channel 15, broadcasting from the back of the Evoke Technical High School. Denny, I will forever call it trade school.
Yes, it's true.
I still do it. I'm sorry. And when they say intermediate school today, I am not thinking about that one up there.
No.
So anyway, good morning, everyone. Danny Akins to my right is my co-host. Danny and I go back many years. We won't say because then you'll start calculating my age. Which I'm not telling you, so there. But in between us, we have Missy Kilbasa, who is with us from the Sandy Meadow Farm Training School for Dogs, and we've been talking about all dogs. We've gone to the dogs today.
We've gone to the dogs.
That's a
what
good
a
place
wonderful
to be.
place to be.
It's a great place.
Missy, I'm sure that people come in with dogs. How do we say this? I'm trying to say this.
Challenging?
Yes, that's the word. So what do you do with these dogs that really just aren't malleable, shall we say? Is there a dog that isn't trainable?
Yes.
Not the owner. I know the owners aren't always trainable.
Yes. So, well, I think, yes. So I think that there's always this, when I train dogs, one of the things I always keep in the back of my head is public safety. So when I say, is this dog untrainable, I sort of look at it from a public safety standpoint.
Right.
Does this dog have a very high potential to injure somebody?
Right.
Yes.
Is it a manageable case that we can prevent that from happening? And is the management going to be successful? And if I truly don't feel that's the case, it is my job to protect the public. I mean, that's my job. So those would be the sort of cases that I might have to make alternate suggestions for. And that's very few, I'm going to tell you. That's not a lot of dogs. But I've been doing this a long time. I have seen those dogs that are just not mentally stable, and there's just a serious issue there. And oftentimes they get referred to a veterinary behaviorist who will try some drug therapy and will try some, pretty intense stuff. But
So is it neurological or behavioral?
oftentimes it is. It can be a combination of the two. It can be a lot of imprinting. Some of these breeds, especially the herding breeds, are just, they get imprinted behaviors, and that early experiences can be very, very hard to fix. And again, sometimes it's the wrong placement. This dog with these very serious conditions or problems was placed in a situation that it cannot be successfully managed, and it's getting exacerbated.
yes,
So,
Missy, is it fair to say that
was Wilson's
so
placement.
many people who don't really know dogs think that this problem might be breed specific? And I tend to
is there
think that's not so
breed-specific
much the
issues?
case.
So
In other
there's
words,
there's some instinctual genetic behaviors that are
Sure.
going to be much stronger in certain breeds of dogs. So
Right.
I'm going to say to that. So are there behaviors that are genetically pushed? Absolutely. Absolutely. You get a border collie and you stick it in a situation with chickens and expect it not to chase the chickens. Well, that's just silly. I mean, that's going to happen. You need to train that. But do I think, if we want to get to that, do I think that all bully breeds are dangerous? Absolutely not. I've met some of the most delightful, I've worked with some of the most amazing bully breeds. Can they have a higher propensity to dog aggression? Yes. Of course they can. That's what they're sort of bred for. Even if you want to admit it or not, that's what they're bred for.
using the wars, weren't
Can
they,
you
for-
work on that? Can you train that? Can you modify that?
Right.
Most of the time, yes. It would depend a little bit on how strong that genetic potential is.
Right.
And sometimes we don't know that right off
And
the
its
bat.
history.
Correct. The
And
background
I like
history, the
use of
genetics
word
on the dog.
most of the time.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing for people to understand.
sure.
I don't know, Missy. I think that dogs are in fashion and out of fashion.
Absolutely.
If you have a movie about boxers, you're going to have a run on
Correct.
people running out and getting boxers, or purse dogs. You watch, Pretty in Pink, and everybody has to run out and get a purse dog. Is that an issue? With
It's a huge issue.
Oh, of course it is.
It's a huge issue. And the problem is, the less reputable breeding organizations, I will just call them, when they realize there's a market,
That's where
they're
they
going to
go.
breed for the market. They're going to breed, and people are going to go online and go, I've got to get that one, I got to get that one. And they're just going to pop their little deposit down, and off that puppy comes.
Right.
With no understanding of, has anything genetically been cleared on this dog medically? What is the temperament of this parent? What is the early imprinted behaviors? What is the social experience before this dog arrives to you? Sometimes it's going to be fine. You might luck out and get a good one. What happens when you don't?
Does anyone come to you and ask to get a half hour of your time to help them select a
I
dog
love
for
when
the
people
family?
do that.
Oh, my goodness. I think we'd be perfect.
I would love if
have
everybody
told people to
contacted.
call her. People have asked me, and I've said,
Oh,
you
of
need to talk to
course.
Missy, not me.
I'm very, very happy to help people, to guide them.
So you will consult then?
I will.
Mm-hmm.
I will refer for consults if I think it's somebody that wants a very specific breed, and I think that might not be the right breed for you. I might send them over, call a client and go, hey, can they come visit with your dog?
Check this out.
I want them to actually see what it's like living with that dog. So I'm really happy when people say, I'm looking for a dog. What do I look for? I have a whole sheet on picking a good rescue, picking a good breeder, a whole thing that I've written up that's prepared. People say,
Now,
I'm
do
looking.
you recommend rescues?
I do if you vet them and do your homework. There's some great rescues out there. There's some wonderful ones. There's some really lousy ones though too. And you just need to know what you are getting into.
And every home is such a different environment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Children,
is there
adults,
children?
elderly.
Is there?
Yeah,
Do you have a
matters.
fenced-in yard? I mean, every
And that I
single
find
one.
is that's a big issue too, which I do want to mention because I have a lot of people that come to me that have had dogs their entire life, and now they have children. And now they have a dog, and now they're having a problem. And they're very upset because they've had dogs their entire life. I go, you've never had a dog with children in your home.
Right.
That is a completely different planet.
Of course.
Completely different planet, and that's why you're having trouble.
It's competition for
Yeah,
one
we
thing.
got to change what you're doing here because I know before you had all the time in the world to train that dog
Sure,
before. You do
yeah.
not now.
It
So
was
now
a
we have to.
one-on-one relationship.
We got to
Now
micromanage this
it's-
a little bit. We got to figure out how to make this go.
Now you got a
Yeah,
community
yeah.
you're running.
Yeah, so it is different when people are looking for that.
Now, where do you stand on the electric fences?
I'm not a huge fan of anything electronic, I'm going to tell you, that we use on dogs.
Well, they go down.
Dogs are smart.
Yeah, so here's my theory on the fences. I'm not completely objectionable to them. It depends a little bit on the temperament of the dog, if that's a dog that's going to be suitable for it. I also personally think it depends on where we're using it. So I'm not a huge fan if I'm using it in a location that's a very populated neighborhood, and perhaps your particular house has foot traffic and visual traffic on all four sides of your property, and now you're going to put an e-fence up to keep your dog in that property. The problem with it, and they do tend to work to keep the dog in, but anytime you're using any sort of electronic stimulus on this dog, whether it's a collar, whether it's a fence, whatever it's going to be, you can't always guarantee what the dog's perception is of that stimulus, because it's an autonomous stimulus unattached to you. You're not actually directly involved with it. So just for instance, on a lot, and this is, and I always tell people too when they ask me about this, my persona on an electric fence is very, very skewed, because what my phone rings for are when it's gone badly.
Right.
Okay, I'm not talking to the hundreds of thousands of people that never had a problem with their e-fence. Right. I'm talking to the hundreds that their dog will not go out in the backyard anymore.
Really?
That their dog is now charging at people walking down their street, and they've never done that before. That's my phone ringing. So that's the problem, is you have a dog who's just super social friendly, and somebody walks down the street, and the puppy goes, I just want to go say hi to the people. And now as they go to say hi to the people, they get a zap.
Yeah.
Well, where did the zap come from?
Right. They might think it's coming from that person.
The dog's
Yeah.
looking at the person,
Yeah.
and they're getting a
They
correction.
don't put that in the advertisements for the fence. Those
So now, and
fences.
again, it depends on the dog. It depends on the dog's perception. It
Yeah.
depends on, I understand there's a training process involved. I know about the flags. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
yell at me. You don't know about the training. I do know about the training.
Yes.
I get it. And some dogs are really good about
Some
that.
dogs are great.
Here's the other problem with the e-fences, and again, my phone rings for this, is if you have a dog that is very, very strongly prey-driven, and that tends to be a lot of our hound breeds, a lot of our hunting dogs. They see something, and I've known dogs that have done this, and they want it. There's a deer over there.
Right.
They will just toughen up, run through the fence
Sure.
because they want it. 'Cause
They
that's
take-
in their
they'll
head.
take
and
it.
And of course, as they see that animal, the adrenaline and epinephrine kicks in anyway, so that they almost don't feel it at that point because they're already hyped up. The problem is they chase the deer. Now they want to get home.
They can't get back.
They can't get back on the property because they still have their collar on.
Oh my God.
So it's not the leaving that was the problem. That I could have fixed. It's the coming back. Now the dog's terrified to come back on the property because every time he tries to get home, he's getting a
Yeah.
correction.
Now the adrenaline's not there. I'm assuming, I think beagles all the time, because beagles look so wonderfully loving and
I
kind,
love
and
beagles.
they are.
I do love beagles.
But I've always
We
felt,
had
and I
as
might be
kids.
wrong, that there's so much imprint in their genetics.
You need a fenced-in backyard.
You need a fenced in, because they love you to pieces, but if they sense something, or that's just their nature,
Oh, I
they're
have
going
another
to be
just
gone.
Yeah, so bad story about e-fences as well. Twice this has happened now.
And
Dogs
they're
having
little.
e-fences.
They can be small. They're smaller breeds.
Yeah, so this was unfortunately a client that had miniature dachshund who was in her house. The dog was in the backyard on an e-fence, and she saw the coyote come into the yard.
Oh,
Yes.
jeez.
Yes.
The coyote doesn't have an e-fence
Yes.
on. So
No,
the coyote
no.
crossed the line,
Yeah.
grabbed that little dog, and
gone.
they never found it. And I had another one that was the
Yeah,
similar.
that
So-
happened up
Nature,
on Devon
that's
Manor.
Yeah, yeah.
They had the coyote. It was a little, I don't know if it was a Yorkie, what it was. but
Yeah, yeah.
the
So
coyote-
I understand that,
People need to be aware of those coyotes now. And
They
this
wanna get in, they're gonna get in,
and
but,
we have a bobcat in our neighborhood
We do
that
too.
I've
Yeah.
seen twice now, and it is taken to lounging under bushes. And this cat is big.
They're big, yeah.
They are big,
They are
and I
big.
can understand why. There was one trying to get across our brook last week.
Yeah, yeah.
And in
They're
fact, it was up
beautiful.
on West Road
Gorgeous.
too.
Beautiful.
I understand why people think they're seeing a mountain lion.
Sure,
Because they are
Because
that
they
big,
are
yeah.
big,
Yeah.
and they do have a residual tail.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I understand the confusion.
Yeah.
So-
But I'm a huge fan of regular fencing, folks.
Yes,
I think
yes.
that's safer for everybody.
Yeah.
It's safer for the dog. It's safer for your neighbors. That's the other thing. You have a dog walking by your fence with an e-fence, and your dog charges the e-fence screaming and barking. Well, the dog walking by does not realize there's an e-fence there.
No.
So as that dog is trying to walk by, your dog is acting like Cujo.
Right.
And they have no idea if that
Right.
dog's actually going to get them because
Right.
there's no
true.
barrier.
And if that dog's a dominant dog, they could cross
Yeah,
right
if
over.
it's a dog, it's a fearful dog, and they're panicking because they
Right.
think this dog's going to eat them, and they
course.
don't know there's an e-fence. So I'm a huge fan
Yeah,
of just
there's
regular
all
fences.
kinds of.
Now, I know this is kind of a veterinary question, but you're qualified enough to answer it.
Oh, I'll try.
No, you can. What are the inoculations and the treatments that we should have for our dogs?
So in general, I'm a huge fan of early core vaccinations. And again, I'm not a medical professional, so that's a conversation you have.
No, I know, but you know enough.
So to come to dog school, I can give you that.
you're
So,
recommending.
so
What's
to come
the
to my dog obedience
recommendations?
school,
Right.
my recommendations are they have to be vaccinated for distemper and parvo. That is a requirement, and they have to follow the series recommended by their vet, which is normally a 3 vaccination series.
Right.
But you can talk to your vet about that. Rabies I require by 6 months of age. Normally, rabies can be given anytime between 3 and 6 months, but we require it to be on site after 6 months. Kennel cough is Bordetella. I think that's optional. In my world, I tend to vaccinate my puppies for kennel cough just because if they get it, it tends to last a little bit longer. And
Yeah.
I've seen enough dogs with residual problems from early
And their
kennel
immune
cough.
system is not truly
Yeah, with an
formed.
adult dog, I don't worry about it. They've probably been exposed to it. It's kind of like the cold. I just don't worry about it. Those are the only vaccinations that I require. Anything else is a veterinary conversation. If you decide you want to do anything else, that's
But
certainly
it's
up to you.
getting harder and harder, and this is a little off topic, to find veterinarians now that will take
is.
new dogs because they're all so full.
Yeah, it is. And there are some of the, the pop-ups, they do have the, Tractor Supply and those kind of places have just for vaccinations. But I do encourage people to have a brick and mortar veterinarian on
Yes.
your.
And
on
I
your-
have said that to people
know-
that are getting kittens. I had to place kittens a while ago.
Yeah.
Not through any fault of mine, trust me.
Yeah, yeah.
We
know how that goes.
There's a sign out there
Yeah,
somewhere.
there's a
but
mark on your
I
head.
said to people that were interested, first of all, I only place them with people I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, if someone calls me, I don't know who you are. I had one woman that I turned down because I said to her, well, if you can't take one of these, she had some issues she had to wait a while. I said, you can try Dakin. And her answer was, well, I can't afford their prices.
Right, then,
Well, if you can't do that,
right, how can
You
you
can't
keep
take care of it.
Animals are not cheap.
Yeah, yeah,
because
they
your
are.
vet bills, and when you go to a place like Dakin, they're going to be fixed.
Yeah.
They're going to have their shots.
They're going to be healthier. Sure.
It's very reasonable. yeah.
That's your
Yes.
$200 to $300 there. So I
Right.
turned her down.
Yeah.
I said no, but I do say to them, before you take a kitten, find a veterinarian.
Right, find a veterinarian and just
Right.
have them because it is hard if you have, we do have the emergency clinics around and that's great. We have the new one that opened up in West
But
Springfield.
they have
which
a
is great.
minimum. When you go to
Right.
those clinics,
Yeah.
Missy, as you know, you have to guarantee $600 to $800 right off the bat.
Probably so, yeah. And
want-
really, and
yeah.
they're not really necessarily designed to do your follow-up care either. I mean,
Right.
some certain situations they certainly will, but you're going to need that veterinarian if there is something follow-up. You want to make sure that you have, because otherwise nobody's going to take you. You have an animal that, got stitches or has a cast,
Right.
and now we take it off, and they're going to go, well, you're not our client.
Right.
Yeah, and they don't.
So I would encourage everybody. I tell everybody, and just make sure that you have some conversations, pick a vet that you like, but have a vet, have a brick and mortar vet in you, so they know who you are. You've got a client file. They're there for you if you need them. So I think that's important.
Excellent. Now, what about private lessons? Do you do private?
So I do. I do minimal private lessons, to be perfectly honest. I'm just so busy with the classes. We run classes 6 days a week, so classes are there every night, Monday through Friday. We run daytime classes Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. Some of the trainers that I mentioned before that work for me, none of them actually have their own facility. Most of them do private lessons, so they will also use our facility. If they have to do a private lesson that needs not in somebody's home, but they need off-site, they'll use the facility. So because of that, and I manage all of the classes, nobody comes to Sandy Meadow Farm without having some sort of conversation with me. So
Right.
even if I'm not your direct trainer, you've had
Right.
some sort of interaction with me. So because I do all of that, I do all the follow-up, I take care of all the videos, all the supplements, everything that has to go out to everybody, I don't have a ton of time
No,
to do
do
private
private.
training. So
In addition to this, she does farm chores.
I do, and I have
cleaning
kids, and I have grandbabies, so I've got a lot going on.
Oh, sure, you had to rub that
I
one
know,
in
sorry.
again.
Sorry.
I'm so jealous.
So so I don't do a lot myself. I do some if it's something, but again, if it's something that is not going to require an awful lot of follow-up. So we're just talking some basic stuff, not a big deal. I'll do some private training if I need to do that. But if I know if it's going to be a pretty involved case and we're probably going to need some substantial follow-up here, I'm going to refer to one of my colleagues that's what they specialize in, which is, again, why I like to be that resource. Here's somebody that I think will be able to help you. And this happens a lot, they do some private training and then they say, okay, now I think this dog actually would benefit going into a group class and having the experience of working around the other dogs and the other people, they're going to come back to me. And I'm going to see them back for a group class at that point. But I don't mind being a sounding board. I do a lot of just sounding board sort of stuff. So people will call me and I say, tell me what's going on. And then I make that decision whether I think we can do that.
Do your classes fill up? Or are you still?
I always have a wait list.
Of course, there
I
you
know.
go.
And I feel bad because some people, they want to get into us and they say, but you always have a wait list, and then they go somewhere else, and then, sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not a good experience. And I go, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I try to add as many classes as I can, but we only have 6 dogs in a class, so we keep
I was going to ask
small
about
size.
that, yeah.
We do screen, so any dog, and I know you were asking about dogs that might have some concerning issues. If anything flags on a registration form that somebody says to me, we do a meet and greet or a behavior eval before, and that's not a training session. That is just for me to meet the dog, and I just want to see, is this dog going to be safe in a group class?
Right.
Because I don't want to put a dog in there for 2 reasons. One is, if the environment is over the dog's capability and threshold, that's not a good experience for that dog and the handler. And the probability is they're just going to quit because they're not going to find success in that environment. Right. But I also want to make sure that everybody coming is having a good experience. So I have one dog that is, incredibly disruptive that we can't make some quick accommodations for and help that dog feel a little bit more comfortable, then that's affecting the class experience for everybody else. And that's not fair to them either. So so we want to make sure it's a good fit for everybody.
What is the wait time on a wait list right now? Like
so
3 months,
right now I'm
6
Booking
months?
April. No, it's not that long. No, April. Yeah. And when I can, if I have long wait lists for classes, we try to add extra classes. So if I have
So you might get a call saying, okay, we're going to.
And I'll tell people that, and we'll put people on a wait list, and we always confirm ahead of time. So sometimes those class rosters move around a little bit, and I might be able to call somebody and say, hey, I got a spot for you. Would you like to come? So that works out too. And we want to, do our best to make sure that we're offering a training center that uses positive reinforcement to train. So I want to make sure that I have that available for people, because I'm afraid if I don't, that they might take a different training path or unexpectedly take a different training path, and I want to make sure that training path is something that is appropriate and kind. So, yeah.
I have another appointment I have to go to. I apologize to Kathy and to our listeners and to you, but thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was nice meeting you today. Yeah, thank you.
I am so glad I had the opportunity to meet you.
Thank you very much.
And I have to say goodbye to you. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sure I will see you again.
I think so.
I'm sure you will, Dennis. Thank you so much for helping.
Enjoy the beautiful day. It's beautiful out there today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank you.
Bye-bye. See you again soon. Is there anything that you wanted to share with us that we haven't hit on, or any questions that we haven't answered?
I guess the one thing I would say is when you are looking for a dog trainer, because people go out there and they do a lot of shopping, and there's lots of Facebook inquiries, and who knows about a dog trainer. And I'm just going to remind folks that the dog training, as a rule, is very unregulated. So
really,
yes,
interesting,
incredibly unregulated. So there is no licensing for dog trainers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is a little bit scary. So you could, and I see this a lot. Somebody that's raised 5 dogs successfully, they're going to hang their flagpole and they're a dog trainer now because they successfully raised 5 dogs.
Or they've done a course on YouTube.
Or they've done so there's a lot of credentialing that you can do an online course, and 5 hours later they give you a certificate that says you're a dog trainer. So I just remind people to be very, very careful when you're out looking for a dog trainer. Please look for good credentials, and this is just my opinion. People can give you a different opinion, but my opinion would be somebody that is IAABC, which is International Association of Behavior Consultants and Trainers. I would look for them. APDT, which is a Pet Dog Trainers Association. KPT, which is the Karen Pryor Clicker Academy. She's very good. The San Francisco Dog Training Academy is an excellent one. There's a lot of others out there that they don't necessarily use the methods that I think necessarily build a kind relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I am a firm believer in relationship building when I'm training dogs. And a lot of times that does not have a shortcut. So it's going to take some time, and I think you need to have that commitment. You need to, and again, it depends on what your relationship is that you want with your dog. If you just want absolute strict obedience in a soldier dog, then maybe I'm not the right trainer for you, because that's not what I'm going to treat you. If you would like to have a dog that wants to listen to you and wants to spend time to you and looks for advice from you and encourages and includes you in decision-making process, I would hope that maybe I am the right trainer for you, because that's what I'm going to try to teach you and how to listen to the dog. So just be very careful when people are, kind of throwing names out there and whatnot. And, certifications and accreditations, you can get a certification on a 3-week online course.
I do sometimes see these pop-up sites with people that are just, meet me on the town common type of thing.
And maybe they're great.
Well, they may be, but it concerns me, because I would like to say to them, but what have you done?
Right. Where are your
where
credentials?
have you been?
How long have you been doing? Who did you train with? I mean, I can list all of that.
Yeah.
Maybe all of my trainers can list all of that to everybody. People come and just watch me, and I've had people do that. They've taken a training course with somebody else. They've heard about me, and I will oftentimes say, you know what? Just come watch a class. Just sit in.
I run into this with people that come and say, "Oh, I want to direct a show. Well, what have you done?" Yeah. "Oh, well, I thought it would be fun."
Yeah.
No.
Right.
No. It doesn't quite work that way.
And I say to people, I've raised 3 children. It doesn't make me a pediatrician. Just because I've raised 3 children.
Although you might know more than some pediatricians.
Well, I don't know, but that's what I hear.
No,
I've
you're
raised
right,
5
you're
dogs.
right,
Well,
you're
okay,
right.
that doesn't make you a dog trainer. That's great. Everybody's raised. Well, most people that have dogs have raised.
So how can they get in touch with you?
So through our website, sandymeadowfarm.com. I'm not an Instagram person. I'm just not I'm sorry, folks. I'm just not. So we do have a Facebook page as well, Sandy Meadow Farm. You can get through us with that. Phone number, 413-572-4936. I still am old-fashioned. I answer phone calls, and I talk to people on the phone. If you do call, you're getting me, because I am the one that answers the phone. So you're going to get me if you call. I'm good about answering emails, typically. I'm good about trying to get back to everybody, usually within 48 hours, I tell everybody, but typically I'm within 24 that I try to touch base with everybody. So,
well, we're almost out of time, and we do thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. This was very fun.
We have tried to get you in for a long time.
No,
I'm going to ask you a question, and you better have the right answer.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite breed? I know there's 2. I will put up with 2.
I do. Well, I'm a border collie person by nature. I've had border collies forever. I have a working farm, so I have working border collies, which are definitely my favorites. I don't know, second breeds. I love herding dogs. I have 2 retrievers now in my life. So,
I didn't know that.
So my daughter has a chocolate Labrador retriever, and Seth,
Party
my
dogs.
son,
Fun dogs.
has a Chesapeake Bay retriever. So I'm now part-time with 2 retrievers in my home, and I'm really enjoying that. So I don't know. I think border collies would be my top breed because I've had them a very long time. I love German shepherds. I've had them. I don't have one at the moment, but I've had them my whole life.
I was always surprised you did not get another shepherd.
Yeah.
For sure
And
you
for
would.
me, German shepherds are one of those breeds, and I've had them my whole life. They're one of the breeds that takes a lot of work, I say, to raise them safe and sane, to get them to adulthood and to get them where I want. I've got a few physical limitations at this point, and German shepherds are a very powerful breed. So just because of that, I decided I don't know that I necessarily want to have that big a dog in my life at this point, just because of that. So you make choices based on that. So I have Aussies and border collies now. I love them. They're great. They're busy.
They're adorable.
They're adorable. Yeah, they're very cute.
And they could run circles around mine. I know they
they're
can.
good dogs. They're
But the border
good
collies,
dogs.
they're a great dog. They're just a great dog. And Missy once
in the right
asked-
home.
You once
I'm gonna
asked
preface
me
that.
if I would go back to any other dog after having boarders, and I absolutely would not. Absolutely would not. So that's about it for today, Peter. We thank you very much. Once again, please remember, March 9th, we have the Harlot Queens appearing at the Westfield Women's Club. I believe curtain is 7 o'clock. Tickets are available on the Westfield Women's Club website, or I think you can probably just Google Harlot Queens, and the information will be there. They are now on sale, $20 a ticket, $25 at the door. Also, keep in mind that we have Robin Hood with Will Scarlett, Missy's son.
My son is in that
appearing
show.
in
Come
it.
see it.
And that will be the first 3 weekends in April. Tickets are on sale for that also. And if you don't come, I will come and find every one of you. So thank you very much, Peter. Thank you again for all of your help. And that's it for today. See you later.